After starting development on the remake of Resident Evil 2, Capcom decided to also remake the original Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, which came out in 1999 for the PlayStation 1. Just like with the RE2 remake, the developers used the RE engine. A year after the release of the Resident Evil 2 remake, the Resident Evil 3 remake was released in April 2020. Just like with the Resident Evil 2 remake, I haven't played the original game, so I don't know how this remake will hold up compared to the original game. Still, I can see how well this game holds up compared to the RE2 remake, which I absolutely loved. Let's first take a look at the story. After Jill wakes up from a nightmare, she hardly has time before she is ambushed by a mysterious figure known as Nemesis, who has been brought into the world by Umbrella to dispose of all remaining members of STARS, who are threatening to inform the public about what happened 2 months ago on the outskirts of the midwestern town of Raccoon City. After narrowly escaping the monster's clutches, Jill encounters Brett. Together the two try to get away from the zombie-infested streets, but unfortunately Brett ends up getting bitten, heroically sacrificing himself so Jill can make a run for it. While exploring her surroundings, Jill is yet again ambushed by Nemesis. And while all seems lost, a mercenary of the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service, Carlos, comes to the rescue and saves Jill in the nick of time. Carlos is part of a team comprised of Mikhail, Nikolai and Tyrell that uses the subway trains to evacuate the remaining civilians of the city. To help them achieve this, Jill agrees to reactivate the power of the subway. Upon returning, the train is attacked by Nemesis, who kills the rescued civilians. Nikolai shows his true colors and locks Jill and Mikhail out, leaving them with Nemesis, but Mikhail heroically sacrifices himself so that Jill can escape safely once again. While she survives the crash, she is infected with the T-virus upon her next encounter with Nemesis. Thus, it is up to Carlos to save her. He takes her to the hospital, where he discovers that Umbrella is not as sweet as he thought, as it turns out that they are murdering scientists and wiping out any evidence that can link Umbrella to the T-virus. Carlos obtains the T-virus vaccine and cures Jill, at which point Tyrell finds out that the US government plans to prevent further spread of the T-virus by destroying Raccoon City with a missile strike. Carlos heads out to the lab, and on the day of the missile strike, Jill wakes up and goes there together with Tyrell. Not surprisingly, Nemesis shows up again and kills Tyrell. After exploring the lab, Jill encounters Nikolai again, who steals the vaccine she just obtained, leaving her to deal with Nemesis. After Nemesis has become an unrecognizable blob, Jill finally ends the monster's life once and for all by using a powerful railgun. Finally freed from the pursuit of Nemesis, she heads upstairs to the helipad to retrieve the vaccine from Nikolai. Unfortunately, Nikolai destroys the vaccine, and just before he can kill Jill, Carlos comes to the rescue. Jill and Carlos escape with the helicopter, leaving Nikolai to die as the city is destroyed by the missile strike, concluding the story of Resident Evil 3.
All this death wasn't caused by a monster-making virus. It was greed. Human greed.
One of the strengths of this game is definitely the story, as I was engaged throughout the entire game and wondered how the main characters would come out unscathed. The plot itself is nothing too special, but the characters sell it, with Jill and Carlos having great chemistry, while Nemesis is the seemingly unkillable monster that adds lots of tension to the overall story. While I like the story, the same cannot be said about the map layout, and this was done much better in the RE2 remake, which mostly revolved around the police station, where you gained access to more and more rooms as you progress through the game, making for satisfying gameplay as you are rewarded for your curiosity and your perseverance. In the RE3 remake, the level design is much more linear, with fewer deviating paths. Thus, I felt much less encouraged to explore these underwhelming areas. You also go through them much faster, which ultimately leads to these areas failing to leave a lasting impression. Thus, the philosophy for this remake was probably quantity over quality, which was obviously not helped by the desire to release the game 1 year after the release of the Resident Evil 2 remake.
No! Do you have any idea what you've just done?
The game starts out great, as that part feels the most open-ended, with the most tension as you have to escape the clutches of Nemesis while lots of zombies are roaming around on the street. But after that, the later areas are much less engaging, often forcing you into scripted action sequences, forcing you to go down a linear path while being chased by Nemesis. Even though Nemesis has a scarier design than Mr. X, I found him less intimidating, as the sections where he appears are often scripted action sequences, making them less tense compared to the second remake, where Mr. X was roaming around the police station and could ruin your day at any time. Aside from that, I found Nemesis less frightening, as he appeared again and again, turning into a huge monster, which I don't find scary at all, as the humanoid Nemesis could creep up behind you, while such a huge monster is obviously unable to do so. During your encounters with Nemesis, you can dodge roll as Jill, and perfectly timing this is really satisfying, making you feel like an action hero, though this does somewhat feel out of place in the Resident Evil game. So basically the game plays as a more action orientated Resident Evil 2 remake, and aside from playing as Jill, you will occasionally play as as Carlos, who plays very much the same, although he gets access to a powerful assault rifle, which you will definitely need in the section where he has to fight off waves of incoming zombies. And while it isn't much, playing as another character does give the game some welcomed gameplay variety, as well as the new enemy types that also force you to think of an appropriate way to deal with them. Another part where this remake falls short compared to the Resident Evil 2 remake is the replay value, as that version had different scenarios, making the same experience feel fresh, while also adding in some new content. But unfortunately this remake has none of that, so after having played it once, I feel no desire to play it again, even when you unlock points that you can spend on upgrades to make your playthrough a bit different. Just like the Resident Evil 2 remake, this game looks amazing, though the gore has been toned down a bit as there isn't as much blood, and this seems like an odd omission, though this could have been done to maintain a stable performance, which also seems to be the case in the section where Carlos has to defend the hospital from incoming zombies, where after taking them down they just disappear, making this tense situation much funnier than intended. The voice acting is solid, with Jill dropping some memorable one-liners.
Come on, you creepy ass stalker. You want stars? I'll give you stars.
The voice actor of Carlos truly conveys his likable attitude, while Nikolai is the cliché bad guy and his voice actor truly sells this. To top it all off, the tense chase sequences and boss fights are accompanied by an intense soundtrack that truly gets your heart pumping, while the save room is accompanied by relaxing music, allowing you to recover from all of the profoundly disturbing moments. I had a great time playing this game. Back when this game was released, lots of people were complaining about the length, but since I didn't have to pay full price, and as I am someone who appreciates quality over quantity, I didn't mind that this game was only about 5 hours long. That being said, this remake is nowhere near the quality of the Resident Evil 2 remake, which is a shame, because with a little bit more effort and development time, I'm sure this remake could have been as good. Aside from the entertaining plot and characters, this game doesn't do anything to truly stand out from the competition, making for an entertaining but ultimately forgettable experience. Still, despite all the negatives, I do recommend this game if you are a fan of the series and want something to play that doesn't take too long to complete.
Come on! Next time, take the fucking hit! Good riddance.